Welcome everybody to our webinar in order to know our new opportunities of financing of adaptation after post COP21. If you could tell me if you can listen to me well. Kali Lieva is my name. I'm the moderator of the webinar, and I would like to thank you all for your participation. Please choose the language on the bottom of the page, and it has the names in English. You can choose English or Spanish. During the module, we will discuss about what type of funds we dispose of for the adaptation and if there are any mechanisms for access to them, for accessing to them. That is our 15th webinar of the practice community. That belongs to the module number 15. So other topics that we have been discussing about is we have already identified technological needs in order to accomplish the adaptation objectives to climate change, and we have funds for implementing those. I would like to present our presenters, Marta Moreno and Frankie Karim, who are going to be connecting from Panama and Thailand, and they are going to talk about these topics. The questions will be carried out after each presentation using the chat. They will be translated using the chat. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the question mark that is on the bottom left part of your screen. If your screen freezes or your audio cuts, you can just refresh the page. So it is a pleasure for me to introduce you to Marta Monero. For her experiences, she is expert in. She has a doctorate of the Polytechnic University of Spain with Center in Agricultural Economic and Management of Resources. She has been a postdoctoral research in the Institute Potsdam for the investigation research on climate change, and has been the director of the program of the climate change in Samoa and assessor in adaptation for climate change. Currently, Marta is the regional coordinator for Latin America and the Caribbean of the Center and Network of Technology of Climate, CTCN. In her presentation, Marta will talk about the new opportunities for financing the measures of adaptation, focusing in the technological aspect. Now, I'll give the floor to Martha, who is in Panama, and please just wait a few seconds for her to connect. Hello everybody, my name is Marta from Panama. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Lily, thank you very much for the introduction. I am waiting for them to connect the presentation. As Lily mentioned, I just wanted to tell you that I'm based in Panama in the Office of United Nations Program for the Environment. I'm coordinating this new tool, the new initiative that has a couple of years of life called Center and Network of Technology for the climate. So today I would like to give a brief introduction about why we created this mechanism, how it is being used, and how the different actors, stakeholders can participate in this technology network for climate. Lily, can they upload the presentation, please? I don't have it. Yes, just a minute. We are working on that. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with the presentation. As I mentioned, we'll talk about Climate Technology Center and Network. This is a tool that has been created a couple of years ago by the decision of the Conference of the Parties in the international negotiation of climate change, because the countries detected that there were some problems for having access to new technologies. Apparently, there was a lot of financing available for mitigation and also for adaptation, but many countries they faced challenges in identifying what types of technologies could be implemented or what could be the most suitable ones for their situation. So that is CTCN. The board was born to encourage technology cooperation and promote technology development and transfer at request of the parties from developing countries. That is the current mission. So we have three main services. It works through three means. One of them is the technical assistance, direct technical assistance. The other ones are capacity building activities, and the last one is the creation of that network to encourage the connection between the different actors. And our offer is to remove barriers to invest in climate technologies and for using those technologies that could be more efficient, those actions for mitigation. CTCN is constituted or has a structure in two different parts. We have the center, what is considered the center of technology for climate, based in Denmark. We have a technical team that works currently there at the site, and we have a network where we have different members. The countries, which are the ones that request the technologies, and the countries are represented through the network through their designated national entities, which is always a center point in the government. Sometimes it is the Ministry of the Environment, sometimes it's the Ministry of Science and Technology, and sometimes they are the Ministries of Foreign Affairs. On the other hand, from those countries that demand the technology, the technical assistance, they also belong to the network. We have also in the network a group that is around 150 organizations that are capable, have the capacity to provide services that they know about technologies that could be relevant for adaptation or mitigation, and they want to provide their services for the countries that request it. As I mentioned in the previous graphic, in the map, we see which are the countries that already designated their national entities, and they are able to send requests to the CTCN. The way it is structured, as I mentioned before, CTCN reports directly to the Conference of the Parties. It is one of the arms of the mechanism of technology of the Conference of the Parties, and this secretary, as I mentioned, is based in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and it's also managed by PNUD, UNEP, which is my institution. We have 14 other institutions that form a consortium of the CTCN, and they're all technological institutions spread throughout the world that are able to answer and to give feedback when the countries submit their requests, or they are trying to find and to submit a request. And we have also the network of the countries with the NDEs and the academic institutions, NGOs, or even partners of private sector that belong to the network. This is the structure of the consortium. We have 14 members that I mentioned before that support the office in Denmark for creating those requests in the countries and in giving feedback for the request and giving response to all the countries. As you can see, in Latin America, which is my region, we have the CATI based in Costa Rica that is dedicated to adaptation topics, and the Fundación Bariloche that is found in Buenos Aires in Argentina. But in the rest of the world, we have different institutes of different importance, technical importance. For example, in India, TERI, in energy, the Network for Natural Resources in the States, and UNEP and UNIBUP, which is the Organization of United Nations for Industry, that works jointly with that. When we talk about technology for climate technologies, what is the definition for that has the CTCN for technology? So we have a really broad topic. CTCN does not work only in technology parts, hard technology, hardware or machinery, but it understands as technology the development of new policies, of financial mechanisms, and even in topics of sensibilization and education of population for climate change. CTCN works also for mitigation and for adaptation topics, and we will see that we are having requests in both aspects that are quite balanced. As I mentioned before, I'm going to explain which are the three services provided for the CTCN in detail. As for the technical assistance, the practical way in which this topic works is when, for example, a country identifies that has some sort of needs and wants to implement a technology, or that wants to pilot a new technology, or that wants to develop commercially a little bit more technology that it already has. So in this case, the country should present always through that designated national entity mentioned before a request of technical assistance for the CTCN. In order to submit that request, we have the different formats available in the website of the CTCN. It's a quite simple request form. It's marked 3 pages, but it also becomes around 8 or 9 pages, where we describe basically those are the objectives of the country in terms of adaptation of climate change. This is a technology that is relevant for the country for these reasons, and this is the technical assistance that we request for the CTCN. In the case it is a technology that hasn't been implemented in the country, and we would like to carry out an analysis of this technology. What are the experiences at the world level? What were the benefits? What were the problems associated with this implementation? We would like to carry out analysis of feasibility of this technology in the country, and maybe we would like to carry out a plan to design a plan of the costs and benefits of implementing that technology for our country. So that request, as I mentioned, it is showed in the slide. We can be presented in any official language of the United Nations, which are common languages is English, Spanish, and French, and they are provided through this technical assistance. They have a maximum value of $250 and for implementation in a lapse of 12 months. So what we're looking here are quite concrete interventions that could have a multiplying effect, something that is looked for in the country, I think. And as I mentioned, we can have this in any type of the development in technology, in conception, in design, developing, implementation, etc. These graphics show a little bit where are the organisms in regards to the amount of technical assistance provided now. As you can see, as for the objectives of the Convention of the United Nations for Climate Change, we see that the amount of requests received for mitigation are almost of 50%. and adaptation is 32%, but sometimes is a little bit more. As for the region that requested technical assistance, we have most of them were from Asia and the Pacific, but this is all, and Africa, but this is quite creating a balance among all regions. On the other hand, besides this technical assistance, we saw that the second type of services provided by the CTCN was the capacity building service, which is carried out through different channels. We have, for example, the webinars, like the one we are participating of today, normally are weekly, and we can access those to the website of CCCN, where we explain experiences of different countries in the direction or the development or the different scales of different technologies for change, climate change. So most of the webinars are carried out in English, but we are starting to design specific webinars for the region of Latin America and the Caribbean and other regions once we have those results of the first technical assistances that we have been providing. As for the networking, which is the third service that we mentioned, provided by CTCN, this is a service a little bit more direct, because what we try to benefit is that the organizations or the countries become members of the network of the CTCN. So we can start encourage interaction among them. Some of the important partners that we are working with and that we are looking, that is an utility that sometimes maybe it was not the intention of the CTCN, is how this financing, how these countries could use these funds for carry out a technical analysis and design on technologies that could help them to gather financing in a broader range. For example, the Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, etc. Also, TCTN coordinates parallel activities that are similar with other partners, like for the Intermediate Bank of Development, the Asian Bank of Development, etc. Asian Development Bank, etc. So through other element related with this element of networking of CTCN is the creation of that platform for the private sector, trying to favor identification of investment opportunities for the private sector in technology or with the incorporation of technology in productive processes of the private sector. So this is another interesting aspect related to technologies. We recognize which is the role, the main role that the private sector will have. And the platform also tries to favor this, trying to encourage those links with the private sector and create those spaces where we can have dialogue with others. As for some examples, I put here some examples of the region so you can see how we have a lot more requests. These are some of the requests: Chile, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Uruguay, where you can see that we are working with adaptation topics, with mitigation things, and I would like to mention also that now the requests are also evolving in a particular way, where we are starting to receive requests not specifically related with the adaptation topic or mitigation topic directly, but with topics that are much broader, like for example, creation of databases or knowledge management systems or mobile apps in order to train agricultures or people that live in a zone, etc. So we're trying to work in more technological aspects that maybe come from different sectors, but they have an application, really important application for climate change. Just to mention, in Chile and Colombia, that were two of the countries that requested the first technical assistance almost 3 years ago. These technical assistances have already finished. In Chile, for example, last week I made a presentation for the government of this system of monitoring of biodiversity, seed biodiversity in climate change context. That information, all the work carried out, all the results are already available for the public. And in Colombia, they are about to finish the national system of monitoring carried out for climate change. And they also finished the technical assistance of policies development for renewable energy. As I mentioned before, in the case of the Dominican Republic, we see that they are working on an early warning system that is basically creating a communication protocol through mobile technology in order to alert the population if we have a flooding problem, for example, you have to evacuate this zone. But you can see there is a quite broad range as for technologies covered by CTCN. These are some of the examples, but we have already around over 120 requests presented, submitted from all over the world. All requests are presented to the CTCN, and all documents resulting from these technical assistances are available on the website for you to consult them. As I mentioned, this is a summary of the Dominican Republic, where the country presented a request and said that manifested a problem in the increased frequency. They had increased frequency and intensity of extreme storms, but said that there were mechanisms to get preventive information. It's just that the system to communicate with the public was quite inefficient in order to accomplish the saving of lives. So the CTCN answered worked by this century defined as objectives to strengthen communication protocols, identify new technologies through cell phone applications, and also help negotiating private funding to develop and escalate the communication system, this communication system. So as a summary, or even before, and a little bit more specific for this topic of adaptation-based ecosystems that we work in this practical community, we have a quite recent example from Peru that was where they sent a specific request on adaptation-based ecosystems, and that was about supporting it in how to introduce or how to integrate this adaptation-based ecosystem when designing and developing all the management plans of protected areas. Protected areas in Peru, they have a key role on the production of ecosystems services, for example, water and the contention of erosion of these high mountain areas, but we also have a population that live in those protected areas, and their economic activities depend on this. So the intention is to see how these communities and populations living in those protected areas can develop their activities in a way that goes well with the environment and taking into account the provisions of climate change for the region. So how these adaptation measures based on ecosystems can integrate with a approach from the planification of those protected, or the management of those protected areas. As a summary of the opportunities that we have as a CTCN for different aspects, on one hand, the countries have the capacity to receive technical assistance needed and technologies that have been identified as proprietary. But at the same time, the members of the networks becoming members of the network as providers of technology, knowledge, and services, they have a unique opportunity to expand their market in order to offer services related to the market, not only in the region, but at the global level. and not only to expand the market, but also to enter in contact with different institutions that deal with different similar topics with which they can exchange information. Also, we have the possibility, if they want is to propose webinars and workshops along with CTCN. Just for your information, we have every year we have a regional workshop. This year probably will be in Ecuador or in Argentina around October, and the regional workshops up to now have been centered in designating national entities in order to coordinate the process of presentation of requests and identification of needs of technology. But from now, we are thinking about increasing the range of these national regional workshops in order to include some other members of the networks of providers of services. And at last, as I mentioned before, we are discovering a little bit the utility of CTCN in order to identify funding sources for greater projects. For example, use investment through these technical assistances that are seed investments in order to define proposals at a more greater level for financing regarding climate, etc. That was it. If you have any questions, I am available. You have here the website of the CTCN where you can access all requests presented now, all the webinars, all the forms needed for presenting a request, and even to become members of the network. So, I want you to check it, and I encourage you all to write to me, or check the website in order to become members of the network. Thank you very much, Lily. And that was it for my presentation about the CTCN. Thank you very much, Marta. It was really a pleasure to learn a bit more about the way they work and the structure of CTCN. And also, we are quite happy to learn that we have a little bit more of work in adaptation based in ecosystems. We have time, and please, all participants can do their questions in the chat for Marta. And questions can be carried out in English and in Spanish, and they will be translated automatically. Yes, please. So I give Marta the floor in order for her to answer the questions. I'm checking the chat right now. First questions that I have here. Felipe. I don't know if it's Felipe, but he said that we met in Colombia. Is there something for lag? Yes, we have a lot of schedule for lag. CTCN does not have a regional program specific, but depends on the request that we receive from the countries. So each country is carrying out its own analysis of identification of what are those needs of technological needs, and they're carrying out the prioritization. Another question is that if we have a specific amount for each country. No, officially there is none. Technical assistance go between 50,000 and 250,000, and we don't have a amount fixed by country, but CTCN has its limitations, economic limitations. So we are trying to deal with an amount of 3 requests per country and per year. Also, CTCN is financed through voluntary contributions. Even when it's a tool, an official tool of the Convention for Climate Change, in order to encourage the exchange of repression, we had a $25 million contribution, initial contribution, but now we are carrying out a replenishment of that total amount from contributions from United European Union with 10 more millions, and we expect that following countries, following months, even after this meeting that we have with the Conference of the Parties, those amounts could increase. The slides on the projects on the Slack, just a minute. This project, a slide in Latin America region, it has to be updated because we have 8, but in the latest month we have received 3 more from Peru. We have received a couple more, or 3 more from Costa Rica, and a couple more from Honduras and from other countries. So I didn't answer to Frank's question. The implementations of Parcel has an opportunity of financing for climate change? Well, yes. Yes, these things, as I mentioned before, they always has to be seen when a country submits a request. We have to identify where the priorities identified by the country. And they could be in NDCs, or the National Policy of Climate Change, or even if the countries went through a process called technology needs assessment, where they identify the technology priorities that they needed. So it is important to justify the request through what are the priorities identified by the country, and how that investment carried out in technical assistance can have quite significant effort or impact. As I mentioned before, yes, CTCN is already being used for some of the technical analysis carried out needed to propose sources for this financing sources. But what CTCN is not going to do is, with this technical assistance, we're going to propose the complete proposal to the Green Climate Fund, because CTCN is not expert in that topic. But if the country identified that they need to implement a specific technology, of course, CTCN can be used to carry out necessary technical analysis that could include as a part of the proposal for any of those funds. And therefore, the factorability of application of technology what could be the mechanisms of financing that the government will need in order to disseminate and carry out the implementation of technology. For implementation, we have specific dates for presenting that could be presented in a continuous manner. We don't have a date, and we can access those through local governments. They can be the ones that request technical assistance without a doubt, but the requests have to be presented through the focal point of the country. In this case, if a municipality, let's say, is interested in receiving a technical assistance. For example, we're working with a municipality that wants to work in a biodigesters in order to treat the agricultural waste. That municipality presented the idea to the focal point of the country, and they agreed. They presented the request to the CTCN. What I wanted to mention before is that CTCN does not give the funds directly to the countries, but when a country presents that request and it is identified among the members of the region who can have capacity to provide that technical assistance, CTCN carries out an agreement with that institution, and the funds go for that institution that implements that technical assistance to the country through under the supervision of the requesting country and the focal point. Just a second, I think I have more questions. Carlos Mauricio, about your question, I think we need to talk a little bit more further. Maybe Lily can give you my email so we can talk a little bit more on this in parallel. Interest in experience synergies in application mitigation. Yes, we have a lot of requests referring to two topics. For example, the one that mentioned on biodigesters was presented as a request of adaptation and mitigation request because we have it as the benefits of the treating waste for the quality of water in this municipality. So yeah, it is quite interesting to explore that type of requests. In Peru, we had several requests. One of them presented of adaptation based in ecosystem for protected areas of high mountain, and other where we can work or design some sort of strategy of adaptation for the fishing sector. The third, I don't remember it, but they're all available on the website. University based in US work, working with other country. Yes, a country can be university can receive funding, yes, support, but it is necessary that that university is registered as a member of the network. And as I mentioned before, you go online to the CTCN website, you can see a tab where we have network. So you have all the information about who can become member of the network, what are the criteria to assess the organization presenting their candidacies, and the process is quite fast. We just have to fill up a form, which is quite easy, that is sent to CTCN, and in a lapse of 6 weeks, we have an evaluating committee that informs the institution if they were accepted or not. I would like to know the process to access the financing. Claudio. This is something that I basically explained on the presentation. If you have any more concrete questions, you can just email me anytime you want, but basically if you are an NGO, you can register as a member of the network so you can have access to financing. But I don't know what type of institutions you are, so if you want to talk further, you can contact me. The information is all on the CTCN website. If you go to the CTCN website, you see the access to network, you can access through that. We have the list of the countries there, designated countries, the national designated countries, yes. If we don't have one country, what the unique request is that for a country to have a focal designated national entity focal point, is that focal point faced to that Convention of United Nations of Climate Change. They send an email saying from out this is the focal point. So it's at a level, a quite institutional level, and as I mentioned before, the CTCN answers to the Conference of the Parties So it's responsibility to identify what are the focal points of each country. And I think we don't have more questions, Carlos. I think I have your email here. I will send you an email so we can continue our chat. Thank you very much for all the questions. I am available. Lily can send you my email if you have any questions. Please don't hesitate to contact me through email, by phone. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Marty. It was a pleasure and a quite interesting exposition about learning the different opportunities that are coming from CDCN. Thank you very much again. Now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Fakri Karim. He's a specialist in capacity building and has a quite long experience working as the management of the Refinity program. Currently, he is the director of the project in charge of the local project, Local Climate Adaptive Living Facility, through the Fund of the United Nations for Capital Development. It's about mechanisms for investment in the resilience to the local climate, and Farkab will present his experience with the mechanisms for accessing finances for adaptation to climate change, and will present practical examples from Asia. So, Parik, I give the floor to Fakri. He is in Thailand, and please wait a few seconds for the connection.
Thank you very much, Lily. I'm on. Thanks. Thank you very much. As Lily has introduced, my name is Fakri Karim. I'm working with a program called Local Climate Adaptive Living Facility. It's a global program based in Bangkok. It's hosted by UNCDF and owned by numbers of LDC who already joined the program, who were sitting in the board member. And thanks again to this very good webinar organized by Ecosystem-Based Adaptation. Thank you very much for the chance to share our experience here. And I'd like to begin the presentation. If possible, to show the slide. It's not there yet.
I could just proceed with the arrow.
Thank you very much. The slide is shown now. So before I start to detail with the detailed program, I like to give some background of the program, where you can see on this slide where this purple pie is a local government, a responsibility of local government to climate change adaptation. So local government worldwide have mandate and comparative advantage to strengthen resilience. This is, they've been doing this a long time ago. They did all the small things to improve the drainage, improve the farm roads, all of these many things that their community are facing on daily basis. So they've been doing that, and they all fall under their mandate. But often this underfunded by central government. If you see the purple pie below, that is the finance for that, local government receives the smallest finance. This is caused by many reasons. In LDC, where local program is operates, we're mostly in LDC now. One of the big factors is just there is no trust from national government to their local government. So local government in least developed country even less chance to get this money from their national government. While if you see from the pie, the national government who has less mandate in dealing with climate change may have the biggest money. Most of the climate change funds, when it's come to the country, implemented by national entities. If it go down to local government, it's implemented by other partner or other entities who doing the things for local government in parallel to the local government planning and budgeting system. So local government itself doesn't really have a fund to deliver their own mandate. And somebody has to do things for them. After they finish doing whatever need to be done, and then they go, and local government doesn't even have capacity to deal with that. So most of local government in developed country or developing countries, they have capacity to increase their own revenue to deal with this situation. They do PPP, they issue bond, or they take a loan, all those kind of things. But those local government in LDC, they don't have capacity to do this. They don't have a good policy, they don't have a mechanism, they don't have system, so they are there, but then they don't have funds. They are unfunded. They have a lot of unfunded mandate. And then, therefore, LDC, the most vulnerable, are not able to fully build resilient to climate change, especially at the very local level. So based on that reality, this is a local climate adaptive living facility, we call local, was designed to solve that problem. And if you look at the second slide, how local trying to answer these issues about, local has 4 components of it. One is to mainstream the climate change adaptation into the local government planning process. Second is to increase the awareness of the role of local government and also the awareness of the climate change effect itself, which has happened locally. And component 3, the output 3, is a financing mechanism within existing fiscal transfer system from national to local government. So the mechanism is the performance-based climate resilient grant. This mechanism is based on the long experience of UNCDF in supporting LDC in 15-20 years ago on performance-based grant. And then also a component on capacity building to the local government in LDC to allow them to implement the grant they receive through the fiscal transfer system on the climate change adaptation area. Sorry, I have to go to the next slide, but it's jumping. All right, so you see this 4 bullet point where what local is doing. One is mainstreaming climate change adaptation into local government planning and budgeting system, and increasing awareness and a response to climate change at the local level, increasing the amount of finance available to local government for climate change adaptation, and at the same time, by having a robust mechanism, it's also mediating local level to direct access to access the climate finance directly. This is, I like to show the logic of the local itself. if you see, as I mentioned before, the local program is a performance-based climate resilient grant mechanism. It's a performance-based grant mechanism. So that's mechanism built within the existing fiscal transfer from central government to subnational government. If you look at this blue part of the first diagram, this is the regular capital fund that local government receive every year from their national government through the fiscal transfer system. But then with this regular capital development fund they have, when they build, when they do any activity, they do it in the normal way. They don't really consider climate change. Why? Because if they consider climate change, this it's required incremental cost. The blue money, the blue fund they receive, it's less than enough to do their need in the local level. So putting or doing this program or project in the climate resilient way is not the priority for them, because it's required the additional cost with this they don't have. So the local program, as the performance-based climate resilient grant, is a top-up to that. It's a range of 25 to 30% as a top-up to the existing capital development fund they receive. And then by having a additional 25% of whatever they have, that they will implement all their activities in the climate resilient way. So you go to the second block where you see the green one, that a mix of those funds and the incremental costs as a top-up to support by a local program, they will do farm road, they will do a denice, they will do a bridge, they will do whatever fall under the mandate in the climate resilient way. Later on, we can see some sample. The use of this country system is a must. So the fund will go through their treasury and transfer down through their planning and budgeting process, and they implement it and they report back to their own national government. So local government doesn't report to UN system. Local government reports to their own national government to prove the fund they receive, the delivery in the climate resilient way, and then they show the result that has been doing. And there is a minimum condition and performance measurement. Minimum condition is in implementing this fund, they have to meet a basic indicators, a basic condition. That basic condition is very much about public finance policy. So they do have public finance policy, but in normal way, sometimes they don't really apply. They're not comply to their own policy. So complying to their own policy is the minimum condition. If you don't comply, you lose this grant. And then to quality to what you comply to that, and then how you consider the climate change factor in that performance measurement. So if you comply to the highest quality, and then you prove to do this in the climate change related program, then you will get more. You will get a bonus. There is a formula to calculate that one. And then to make sure that whatever they do is fall under the climate change, there is a investment menu. The area of the investment that you can do is not telling what project, but what area you can do based on the vulnerability or based on the risk through the vulnerability assessment they conduct before. How local program do this? It's 2-3 phases. Phase 1 we call piloting. Is we select 2, 3, 4 local government in LDCs, and then for 1-2 years, it's very small money, maximum 250,000. It doesn't look so big, but when you go to a very small country in LDCs, this is quite significant. And this is risky money when we put through their own system in the beginning. So and then they implement this with the performance-based mechanism, and then after 2 years we scale up to more local government. We try to get 5 to 10% of local government. We call learning process, where here they improve the policy, they improve the mechanism and make it more robust, make it more mature. And then the third one is scaling up. So at that stage, where the country already adopted the mechanism, and the government, national government with local government itself, the one who's scaling up this gradually. What the different, phase 1, phase 2 is the grant go through us, through UNCDF, and because it required a fiduciary guarantee, all of those kind of thing to support public finance. But then in phase 3, they use that mechanism to access the grant by themselves. They no longer need UNCDF here. And then what UNCDF and local will do is then outside, very much like the ISO, to monitor how they deliver the grant they receive by themselves through their own system, still meeting the standard. It means not dilute the standard. And there is a country who already in that stage. I would like to show you later. And then this slide, if you see in this box down below, is the normal government business, where they receive the money from central government and then they do planning and budgeting process and they implement it. Outside that, it was the program, the local program to support the existing system. So we do have vulnerability assessment, investment menu, and then the grant, the top-up grant, you see this PPCRG is the top-up, go down to the same mechanism, implemented by the same system, and report to their own national government. So UNCDF and a board member of the local program with other, we have WRI, we're working with WRI now to help local government to develop a monitoring framework of the climate change adaptation. And we work with the KEI to help this country to be able to update themselves with this climate change scientific knowledge, so they can predict their vulnerable or the risk better for future. It's good to learn that citizen also able to help that. Probably we need to discuss in the future. So so we bring those technology down to the existing system to improve what they have. The characteristic of the program, every country who joined the program, they become the board member of the program. So currently we have 11 board members, and the co-chair of the board is a UNCDF and the permanent representative of Bangladesh, who chair the LDC's representation in the UN Secretariat. Before Bangladesh, it was Benin. So the chair of LDC group is the co-chair of this board. So here we say this program is owned by the LDCs. I report to the board. So board the one who make decisions, give the direction or to go what country in the new year and how to rolling out the program. Managed on behalf of the country by UNCDF. I'm from UNCDF side. And then channel climate finance through national system directly to local government, no parallel mechanism or additional overhead, because it's go through existing systems. So we don't create any project structure outside the system. It doesn't require project management unit. It doesn't require all the transportation costs of the project implementation. It might require additional technical or additional team in the government system. Annual audit to measure the resilient build. We have 3 different things. One is every year they do have the assessment of we call minimum condition and performance measurement assessment. So to assess how those countries meet those conditions, and also we have the monitoring evaluation to monitor the project implementation. and also to track and monitor if they use the money based on the investment menu on the climate change area based on this vulnerability assessment. And now we are working with WRI to improve that monitoring information framework to track that financing flow and also to see how it contributes to resilience. And that's why we try to do this robust mechanism. And then if this mechanism also will enable LDC member states to use local as a form of immediate and verified direct access to climate finance for local resilience. So what we mean here, if they have this mechanism, they prove in 2, 3, 4 years, they implement it, they do have capacity, they implemented this performance grant. This mechanism can be used to access a global fund. We will show you a sample where the country who already reached that stage. Sorry, I was taking long to change the slide. Here I would like to bring one sample from the first country who started local program, this Cambodia. The pilot phase was started from 2011 to 2013 in 4 GWs. And then from 2014, 2016, right now, it's scaling up to 6 GW. So even the scale up is not really good to the big number. But the point of scaling up is go to more local government and improve the mechanism itself with a good reporting and information to the policy to improve the policy. And then currently, based on the 2 phases after by the end of this 2006, they already agreed with EU, where EU budget support will scale up this initiative to more and more local government gradually. They target by 2020, they scale up this 200 GW, which is half of the country. So, but phase 1, phase 2 has a process to be able to do this phase 3. So at phase 3, the mechanism already adopted in Bhutan, they call LGSTP, so a local government support program, development program. So the mechanism adopted as part of this 5 years program, and then they implement through this the government program. So then scaling up, go up to half of the country by 2020. You see, this is where they start, the yellow, green and yellow, and then phase 2, more Gayok, then green and yellow, and then by 2017, this is where they are. But if you, I missed the map of 2020, it will be half of this Bhutan. And to what area that the grant will go and what they're doing, you see in Bhutan, 45% of it is to improve the transfer infrastructure at the very local level. And then 22% is to improve water supply system and also to protect social government infrastructure, all those kind of things. So they do this kind of analysis, what they do. But this is where we are now. We start in Bhutan and Cambodia in 2011, 2012. And by 2015, we are already in 11 countries. And the last country who joined us is Vanuatu in Pacific. Solomon Islands still in preparation. And I think this will go rapidly as the strong recognize of the role of local government in CCA, especially after the Paris Agreement. And by having a good sample from Bhutan, Cambodia, and other countries now going on, the demands of this program and access system is become higher from other LDCs. This is a partner who we are working together right now. We have SIDA, EU, Danida, Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, and then we have Jeff also in Laos. And then we work with the Korean Environment Institute and WRI to help us with this technology. And thank you. And I think somehow I missed one slide I want to show you is that okay, so you see, if you're able to go to local website and you go to the country and you see the list of the project, you will see hundreds of the small project has been done by local government, where in the beginning they don't trust local government. The government can do this. Nobody trusts them. But hundreds of the program has been done. And then especially from Cambodia and Bhutan and Bangladesh and Benin, we are expecting thousand of it, as 11 country is doing that now. So you see, those mechanisms will help local government to transform themselves to be able to deal with this climate change situation. Where before, no one put money in their hand, they didn't do anything, and then they keep, as we keep saying, local government doesn't have capacity. So I think in the future, with the strong recognition of the role of local government in dealing with this climate change and with the good mechanism they have, and then this is the way to go. Hopefully, it will help local resilient better than before. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias por la presentación, Fakri. Fue un placer de aprender experiencias sobre el acceso al financiamiento de gobiernos locales en Asia. Y ahora me gustaría invitar a los participantes que pueden hacer sus preguntas vía chat. Cuáles serán traducidos ahí mismo. Entonces, cuando escriben sus preguntas, por favor, después pueden ver que hay un vínculo de traducción y esto se puede utilizar para que todos los participantes y también el ponente, Fakri, puede leer las preguntas en la lengua apropiada. Entonces, sí.
Sorry, I think I have a problem with translation. I didn't get this translated into English. Okay. No, it's still in this.
Okay, so I see that we have one question from Alejandra. It's more a reflection regarding this topic. So the question is, what are the requirements that we need to fulfill in order to apply for funding when it comes to climate change, or maybe in the context of this topic? So, Fakri, if you can answer that question, you could tell us a little bit about your ideas on how this type of mechanisms can be implemented in different contexts, as, for example, in Latin America.
That's a very good question. We don't, the country, we don't need to apply to this fund. What we need to do is where the country to join the program, and then we work together to see if there is an existing fiscal transfer system in the country. And then if yes, and then is that country vulnerable to climate change? This is for sure. I mean, like in different level, different ecosystem. And then based on that, the performance-based grant mechanism will be built in that existing system. So there is no application form or anything to the global program. But it's very much for the local and the participating country to discuss and work together and build the system. And when the system was built, there is a automatic formula to calculate what will be the percentage of the top up of the country, of these selected local government as the pilot at the first stage. And then that money will transfer automatically to national government and transfer down to the local government. Local government will implement that fund through their own planning process. So the local government doesn't require to apply for national government. I want to do this road, I want to do that. No, the local government will receive that fund through the fiscal transfer as part of their other global, other capital development fund. So they plan it together. So local government the one who decide what they want to do, and then plan and implement it. But in doing that, they have to meet those minimum condition and performance measurement. So that's what they need to do. There's another question here. To initiate this program, how we do right now is very much to communicate with us through this local, and then country express their interest to be part of the system. And then unfortunately, currently right now is still for LDC. It's not for the developing country yet. So when the LDC send the letter of interest to be part of this program, and they will be in the list, go to our board. And then through the board member, then we decide every year what country to go. And then when we have that, and we will start to do a scoping mission to check whatever existing policy and fiscal transfer system in the country, and then start to build the work. And then yes, we do. To support this mainstreaming process, we do have the tools and mechanisms have been developed through the program in the last 5 years. But as you see, this program implements very much based on the decentralization policy in the country. So it's not one tools can fit everywhere. So it's always slightly adjust to the existing system and policy in the country. But we do have, I think in future discussion, we can even demonstrate what we have. Yes, normally it starts with the Ministry of Home Affairs, or other, it can be a different name in each country, who taking care of local government, and Ministry of Planning and Finance, Ministry of Finance, and also working very closely with Ministry of Environment, who have the expertise on the climate change. So those three ministries will work together at once. And then the Ministry of Home Affairs or Ministry of Local Government, they're the one who really in charge in implementing the program later on. But the Ministry of Finance, who in charge on this fiscal transfer system, and Ministry of Environment, who own the knowledge, will work together in that. Thus, the time of the project have a limited. It is very interesting. We do have a limited pilot and scale learning time, like 1 or 2 years of pilot and 2-3 years for learning. And then when that mechanism adopted by the government and the government will roll it out, there is unlimited time. So for example, Cambodia can go until 2020, but they plan to cover half of the country. But for another half, they can go as long as they can. There is another sample, Bhutan. Cambodia, another sample. They do phase 1, and then they continue with phase 2. And now, the government institution who implement this program under the Ministry of Home Affairs has been nominated as a first national implementing entities for GCF in the country to get the direct access of the GCF fund to scale up this to the whole country. So when I go that way, the phase 3 is no limited time because it's already owned by the government. That's a very good question on how does local approach the need for adaptive management of project and program as climate change continue and intensify. First, local, as we see, one big component of local also the capacity building support. So local will continue to support the capacity need by local government in able to do this. And then second, local will bring the knowledge and technology to help local government to improve the knowledge and to know better on the climate change. So local will bring the technology to check. Yes, local government has built many local infrastructures, but who knows that local infrastructures they build contribute to resilience. So we bring that technology to them and to allow them to know that and then to check yes, this is contribute to resilience. And then more and more technology will bring down to this program. As before, those kind of technologies stay up high at national level, mostly at these technical institutions. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Carlos, and I think this is the end of the question. Thank you for Jacqueline. Thanks for the chance. I'll be very happy to have a follow-up discussion if we have. But this is a really good chance to share our experience. Thanks again.
Muchas gracias, Hakim. It's been a pleasure. Thanks you for sharing your experience and to allow us to see that there are some ideas that we can take into consideration in different contexts, such as America Latina and Africa. And we will be waiting for some more other experiences of your program. Well, I would like to thank both of the speakers. It's been a pleasure. It's been a very great opportunity to learn and to know the opportunities of getting funding for adaptation, all these new mechanisms that we need to take advantage of, and to find some links and relations with other experiences to fortify it and threaten our experiences. So from us, from the practice community, it's been a pleasure to have so many participants in this webinar. And we're gonna upload the recording of this webinar in the community. And we'll also continue this discussion. We invite you all to be part of this. And we also ask you that if you have some important and interesting information that you want to share with us, please do it, and do it in the platform of the community. Thank you very much for all your support. And we're also going to be sharing the two speakers' contact information so you can get in touch with them. So thank you very much. See you next webinar, and have a good day, have a good, depending on where you are. Thank you very much, and see you later.